Welcome to EconomicZ101, the podcast made by Gen Z for Gen Z, bridging the gap between economics, finance, current events, and our generation. Today we have Vish,
Hi guys.
Ritam,
Hello.
Sinan,
What's up, guys?
and myself, Mihir. Today our topic is the Suez Canal and the ongoing crisis. The Ever Given was a 1,300-foot Japanese contained ship en route from China to Europe that became stuck in the Suez Canal for days. Um, According to current updates, March 29th, 2021, it was freed on a scramble to get through shipping in thoroughfare. This 120-mile waterway, known as the Suez Canal, was a potential area for geopolitical conflict as it opened in 1869. Now, this canal is host to majority of world's maritime trading, and it's a massive point of contention among modern economic conflict. Today, we're going to go over the history, the impact, and what's to come. So to begin like a podcast, we're going to talk about what's going on right now with Suez Canal, the updates, and what's happened. How are we feeling about this?
So I'm pretty sure when it happened, like the 23rd. Yeah, it was like a last Tuesday. So we're like Monday here, like it just got out. Like me here said it got out on Monday the 29th, and yeah, I got stuck on the 23rd. And so like with the specifics, the ship that got stuck was called the MV Evergreen, and it was like one of those larger uh container ships that has like I think it fit up to like I don't remember the exact number, but it's like 2,000 some of those like gigantic like metallic containers that they use for storage. And it's really important that, or like not important, but the canal that it got stuck in is really important because, like Mihir said before, it's been an important trade route for many years, and it's very important for many nations as well. And the people who were managing the canal they were immediately on it. Like they were making there were like 8 tugboats, like within a few hours of the incident, and they were all trying to get it out. And so Evergreen was actually trying to carry goods from China, and they were trying to go to Rotterdam. And the reason that there was like difficulties navigating is still unclear, but they believe that there was some sort of sandstorm in like near the area, and it was preventing them from navigating the canal properly, and that's how it got stuck. So that's kind of like a little bit of the specifics of what happened, and I don't know if anybody wants to talk about like anything else that I might have missed.
I mean, regarding like this situation, there were 8 tugboats trying to get the ship free for so long, and every major news outlet, BBC, CNN, Fox News, ABC, all covering this massive issue because when we're talking about geopolitical conflict, we're really thinking big things happening when maritime trading is as popular as it is now, and there's so many companies and corporate groups relying on this canal to get their things done. These are billions and billions of dollars being pushed through. I mean, the importance of the canal in history is can't be sold any short. It has been so important in terms of being like a global shipping lane, and a high percentage of it have actually have been shipped for years and years now.
Yeah,
I also wanted to, oh, sorry about that, but I did want to mention one thing though. So we see that the canal itself, it's being covered by an entire ship, but it's not just the ship that's the problem here. Another thing to consider is the fact that there are many other smaller ships trying to get past. And because of that, 9.8 billions of like crude oil is being affected by that. And this only means the rise of prices towards gas, which is also going to be very it's a huge problem essentially for when we're paying for our cars, gas, and so on. And I'm not gonna lie, my parents were not too happy about that, and I doubt anyone else's parents were. So
I mean, what do I think about this sort of thing? I know Sinan firsthand. Um, Gas prices, all this situation started to like set up a while from now. But back in the 1800s, they didn't have to worry about this sort of thing. Like moving on with the Industrial Revolution in America and globally, um, So now I can talk about the importance of how this impacted globalization for the future.
Yeah, so like the canal, like they literally saved the world like hundreds of millions of dollars because quite frankly, it's 120 miles running from the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, right? Going cutting right through Egypt. So it's saving a lot of time for ships instead of trying to travel around Africa to get to their destination, they can go right through Egypt. So I think like one ship covers like it saves like $300,000 like nowadays, right? And keep in mind, every day there's like 50, 51 ships going
Yeah,
through the canal, right? Yeah. And the other thing is like these ships, they're not small. They're super massive, like 200,000 tons of supplies and other shipments on each one. So because of like 6 days, like the 23rd to the 29th, right? How the Evergreen was stuck. So 50 times like 200, 300,000, right? You can just imagine how much money was lost, how much price for gases,
I
fuels,
actually have a
the
quote on
customer
that,
selves.
like
Yeah, go ahead.
almost $300,000 in fuel costs from just a few ships. So this is just exponentially increasing. Continue.
Yeah, so what I was saying is like because of all these things, like one thing leads to another, and suddenly the price of products, the price of oil, fuel, all of these just skyrocket because people aren't able to get their like they're not able to get their things on time, right? Like I ordered AirPods like a week ago, and like my package was still delayed, right? I had no idea why until I read the news on the 23rd. Like, yeah, I was so confused because I was waiting for these AirPods for so long, and then I realized, oh, this is probably one problem. So like even though this like one event, like just one canal being blocked like around across the world, you can just see how much of an impact it has to us like ordinary people sitting in the US, right? So yeah, so it's just like everything connects down to like economics, the rise, the fall of everything.
It- just from our point of view, we're Gen Z, we're high schoolers. With the rise of our generation has been the rise of online marketing and online retailing. Amazon has become the most conglomerate, massive, giant in terms of our space, and we haven't really experienced the importance of this transporting and shipping to the regard until we've been in our situation when we're ordering something off Amazon, and some of us have Prime. We order something like Sanon's AirPods and we're expecting to get it in 2-3 days flat. Those types of numbers, if you put that in perspective of previous generations and just how fast something is going from across the world to your doorstep, it's just absolutely crazy. And it speaks to the level of industrialization and increase of technology that's happened.
Well, I think for one, I think the timing of this event, not really timing in the sense like specific day, but during this pandemic especially, it's more important, right? Because now people are getting the majority of their necessities from like online orders and things like that. So this whole incident kind of that prevents everyone from getting the things that they need because a lot of people are getting stuff from online since a lot of nations are still closing their
Yeah, like I know
yeah.
like a lot like people are still ordering masks. They're super high in demand obviously because of the pandemic. And now even with like this blockage of the Suez Canal, now it's going to become even worse, right? Because like first of all, people don't have much access to masks in like third world countries and whatnot. And like this blockage just doesn't help like in any way.
I mean, it has such a massive political, geographical, and like just economical impact. What's really interesting too that we can dive like deeper into, the Suez Canal wasn't always just a normal like waterbed that could transport and ship massive things across country to country. The history of this was actually extremely important and nuanced, and it speaks to the amount of changes that have happened from when it was built in or started construction in 1859 to now.
Yeah, so unlike today, where literally any country has rights, or not rights, mainly Egypt, but they're allowed to have items transported throughout the Suez Canal. Like in the past, in the 1800s, 1900s, there's been a lot of like conflicts between like giant nations like Britain, France, the U.S. on ownership of this canal, and this is super important because the country that owns the canal can like literally decide like what goes through, what doesn't go through, right? So the Suez crisis, as like some of you might know, it had a huge influence on the Middle East, where like Britain, the Soviets, and the U.S. tried to battle and like for imperial power over the canal and economic power as well, right? So and because at the time like Egypt was the current like owner or so to speak of the canal, right? So countries like Israel, Britain, and France also needed it because the canal runs through like most of it runs through like Asia and Europe, like which is like really important for these giant nations, right? So eventually, because of these conflicting nations like going back and forth in the Suez crisis, a compromise was made, and Egypt gained most of the benefit, but it showed how vital the canal was to the economic progress of several nations. Because now, even though Egypt has like most rights towards the canal, like other nations are still able to access it, use it, have items transported to it, etc.
So even at the base of this, it's still trading conflict, country permissions, and like it's a rights issue. I mean, I don't really have a good example of it, but like just for like speaking about globalization, what other like examples can we find in like in contemporary society? This is kind of like it's unprecedented of something happening like this that's like halted a lot.
I mean, in terms of globalization, we have seen this currently in everywhere. Amazon is one of the biggest companies ever. We literally cannot like see a product from Amazon without realizing that it's just one big product from there. In case you guys didn't know, globalization is where businesses or different organizations, what they do is that they try to develop their international influence and then spread it across the world. And because of that, it gains popularity, it gains influence, it gains all of their, that's how they get money basically. And anyone really likes money. So one thing I would like to talk about for that question here is that some companies such as Amazon, companies like eBay, companies like all of that, all of these people, they use globalization efforts in order to expand and then be able to sell their products and have different shipments over where they get their products, put it into these ships, and then they transfer them to different ports. But the biggest issue with that is that with blockages like this, it's very difficult to spread towards that. And I think that the best way to go from there is to create different alternatives in order to create, in case a problem like the Suez Canal exists again. So,
I mean, just in terms of that, like, for our viewers, globalization has been around for a long, long time. We look in the Greek culture spreading across Africa, Europe, and Asia under the rule of Alexander the Great. Stuff we learned in our seventh grade world history classes, extending its reach and its influence thousands of years into contemporary society. We look at the Silk Road, we look at Christian missionaries, and we look at just basic food, how noodles came from Asia to Europe, and how culture and influence can move up a lot. It's really interesting.
Yeah, like I mean, even now, like we've learned this stuff in like history class, even like world history and everything, and even seeing it on the news, just keeping up with the current events, you see all these things, but you never realize how important it is to our economy and basically our day to day lives.
Right,
And
like as we said, and even in our previous podcast with GameStop, right? Things like the GameStop stock, like how it skyrockets, current events, like how it always impacts the market, the stock market, and just money in general, the flow of money throughout the earth, right? And this is another example of one of those current events where we need to stay keep up with these things because these tiny things are not even tiny, major things. They're always impacting the way of the flow of economy, right? So just want to emphasize again that it's like super important to just keep up with current events because as Vish said, like even our history teachers tell us to like read up every day, right? Because it's always really important to know like events, how it's affecting our economy, etc.
Do we know if like countries or like entities are using this to gain relations or influence on other places? Because it seems like this is such an important economic issue, and it's been surprising to say the very least. But it could have bigger impacts, right?
So currently, China is one of the biggest countries right now, trying to spread their influence, using what I believe is called the Belt and Road Initiative, where they're trying to show their efforts by talking to other countries, working with them to improve their own infrastructure, working to sell their own products in order for them to gain power. This is all due to the technology race for building electronic cars, where Tesla and other companies like these electrics are working towards. And I think because of that, what is it? I can recall quickly. Sorry about that, but I meant to say that. So because of that, China using these technology benefits from working with other countries, putting these technology in these ships and then having them there gives them huge benefits. And because of that, when there's blockages for the Chinese, for what was it called again? Sorry about that. For the Suez Canal, that's why they need better alternatives for this. And I believe that other countries are losing thousands of dollars because of that. But moving on.
I mean, countries taking advantage of these situations are like is insane for sure. Um, Anyone have any more examples of this? Because I'm sure it's been happening a lot.
Well, what's like what's been happening a lot?
Yeah, like in regards to like how in what like Ritam talked about, China taking advantage of this situation, increasing the relations. Are like are there other circumstances where this is happening in terms of like an economic introspect?
Well, China, as in China taking advantage of situations that have been happening that like relate to our economy. I mean, this doesn't really tie into it perfectly, but I would say once again going back to the pandemic, it still it benefits China, and the whole pandemic kind of it's been something that has been benefiting China a little bit with how they recovered so fast. I think that's kind of similar, and uh, I mean it's not really like the same scenario, but I think when you
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about how like oh countries are benefiting from these like random mishaps or random things that are happening, I think I'd say the benefits would be similar.
Are there
And
other
yeah, I
stuff?
think
Oh yeah, yeah. Go, go,
well,
go.
it's more like kind of like similar to what we were not similar in the sense that like it's as evident as like the Suez crisis, but once again, it's a question or topic of like ownership, influence over the Suez Canal, right? I mean, like back then, countries were trying to fight over to see who could get control of it, who can like have their economics and their items imported through and throughout it. And even again, like right now, like right before the ship was released and was able to continue, like countries like Egypt and China, they can really like influence like decisions regarding like where the money will go, like where these items, how long they can stay. So everything like a lot of big countries can have like massive influences on these things. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we can make the connection even right now. Like we are all taking masks out. We're walking to our stores. We're abiding by COVID-19 protocol. And we see manufacturing giants, whether it be Germany, whether it be China. Well, of course, it's in the a greater good of healthcare and preventing the outspread of this virus. But manufacturing giants, they're having control, like essentially taking control of this market and using it to push out masks to places. Whoever could get the vaccines first, they have a better healthcare for their country. Whoever can get the correct solutions out, whether it be in any circumstance, not just COVID-19, has a big advantage in the situation. And this is a perfect segue into our next topic on this. What is this doing for our world? Like just the effect of the canal on global economics, whether it's gas prices, whether it's electronics, foods, chemicals. What's going on and how is it impacting us?
So the thing about this is that with the global economics having their like place into this, what we realize is that something as huge as this is causing a lot of massive change. And one of those changes can be included about the 50 vessels. So currently in the Suez Canal, 50 vessels are the ones that are being passed through every single day. This accounts for different products such as chemicals, foods, ore, electronics, all of that. And this is basically 10% of our global trade. And 10%, I mean, may look bad on my math test, which I totally didn't get last week. What I'm saying right now is that that 10% is actually a huge factor into what we have or consume today. So because of that, with all of this encounters big problems, such as the fact that 15% of the world's container shipping has been carrying 9.8 billion million barrels of crude oil, and because of that, massive it has caused massive pauses around that. So here, I think if you want to take it from here.
I guess then we can think about, okay, so if this is a massive issue concerning our major importances in normal society, with what Ritam said, electronics, foods, chemicals, when we're doing this, we're talking about a shutdown of a canal that's impacting 15 percent of container shipping capacity. What about these instances in other instances in past society? Have something like this happened before? What have we done to fix it? And even though this ship has been um, fixed as of Monday today, how can we tackle these issues in the future?
Uh, I mean, just to add on to what you were saying with like similar incident, I feel like I think oil spills could be kind of similar to the impact like with what's going on in the economy, and I think Ritam would have more specific examples because I know he like does Model UN and stuff, and they may talk about this more. So yeah, I think oil spill would be something related, but I don't know if that's what Ritam might have in mind for this question.
Yeah, as we have mentioned before, though, so it took 6 days until the ship managed to leave. The thing is, some ships could not wait that long. So what they did is that they went to different other ports. So compared to one ship, which would have taken at least 6 weeks, which would have taken 39 days to go through the Suez Canal, it took 6 weeks to go to a different one. Another one could be how one ship had to take 13 weeks in order to go through a ship when it really could have just taken 24 days to go through the Suez Canal. It's just that you need to sort of just find ways to find other canals in order to lose money. You either play the waiting game essentially, or you just waste money, I guess.
That's like pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, especially because these different ships like taking certain knots that would take a few extra weeks, and then now they kind of lost a week because it was just freed, right? So the canal, it does have like a lot of routes from it. Like it's not just one straight line. There's a lot of like routing canals that lead to other places too. So there's a lot of other paths that it can take. So regarding like future circumstances, like you were saying, um, like as you also said, like taking different routes, planning for the future, it's definitely possible because of these things.
And that's a majority of our thoughts on the situation. It's been a pretty hectic last 6 days, thinking about looking at everything that's happened in related to this Suez Canal crisis. But hopefully today, on our second installment of Economic Z 101, the podcast made by Gen Z for Gen Z, we have given our viewers a good idea of what happened and our thoughts on the situation. We hope you've had a fun time listening, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.